And we, hi, and welcome to Tenfold Taco Truck. I am Dawn Dreys,
And I'm Majestic Texan.
and today we've got some special treats. We're going to be talking about Tarteria. And Majestic, would you like to go ahead and run away with it, or you want to start with some good news and some local news and
Well,
news?
well, I've got some current event things that I wanted to talk about real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to
Right
have
on.
an entree, an appetizer of what was my let me think of what it was. Oh, it was dynamic pricing. I would
Ooh,
like to talk about dynamic pricing for a minute and how fascist that is.
I
And
agree.
I know that a capitalistic society is the best society to have for
It's the
everyone.
it's the only one that offers a growth.
However, there is room for crony capitalism, and to me, that's what this is. It's saying, hey, you look like you have more money than this person over here. So the little tags when you're at Walmart, I don't go into these places anymore. I just refuse. I can't deal with the people and this and that. So I have everything delivered. But I've seen it videos of people showing these price tags that change. Says 4.99, and then you walk up and you look like you might have some money, and all of a sudden it's 503, or 5 cents higher or something like that. 50 cents higher.
I
And
worked at
that is
Lowe's. I worked
but
at Lowe's probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And they started these dynamic digital pricings, is what they
mhm,
called it. And oh, the claim was it just makes it easier. We can just push everything and we don't have to rely on people to change the pricing. Well, when we first rolled them out, because I was part of the Met team, and it was at Home Depot actually. Well, I was part of the Met team that rolled all these out. And I noticed something that when certain individuals would walk by, the pricing would change. And that's exactly what you're talking about when it comes to
mhm,
dynamic pricing. Based on the phone in your hand, it doesn't matter really what you look like. Now, if you look like, you look like you have money, it's definitely going to go up. But what it does is that as you're coming in, the facial recognition facially recognizes you, pulls your credit, your dynamic credit that is publicly available, and says, okay, based on that, you should be able to afford, if you're looking at refrigerators,
mhm.
75, $100 more than this person. So it's going to show you this price. And if you say, I want this, you may get a little tag, or even if you get a cart right there and pick up the refrigerator and take it with you, you're still going to pay that price that the dynamic told you it was, because that facial recognition follows you. If you look anywhere in the stores, Walmart now, it's all over now. Walmart, Target, even the J.C. Penney's, before they quit doing brick and mortar, they were going dynamic pricing, trying to be more competitive. And you'll see that if you want an item and you're, kind of low on funds, you're not rich, you're not poor, you're not middle class, you're just kind of in that fluxed stage of,
Mhm.
hand to mouth and middle class. And you go online and you say, okay, I want to look at refrigerators at Lowe's here in, say, Midlothian, Virginia. And then I want to look in Petersburg, Virginia. And then I want to look in Richmond, Virginia. Depending on where in Richmond, you could go downtown Richmond. It will be cheaper there because the cost of living there is cheaper. So if you go pick it up, beware. Leave your phone in the car. Do not take your phone and
No.
just go in and get the refrigerator that you want, because it's all based off the telematics on your phones.
I saw where a lady, she was having a birthday party or something for a child, and there was some three-piece item she wanted to get that had a certain price online. And when she went to Walmart or wherever, I think it was a Walmart, it was triple the price when she got there. And she talked to him. She said, "Can you price match this price that's online?" And they said no.
No.
So basically, if she ordered it online and had it delivered, which look at how labor intensive that is comparing to actually going to pick it up. You know, you're paying somebody to shop, somebody to bag, somebody to deliver. But she would end up paying probably about the same price in the long run.
Right.
But you know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm tired of this idea that we don't get to choose anything. You know, we're going to have to start, and myself included, because I'm a Walmart junkie. I stopped shopping at Target years ago. I
Yeah.
dumped Target years ago, for many reasons, but I kept with Walmart. I was begrudging at that, even. But I think we're just going to have to start saying no to certain places at some point and try
It's
to shop local.
if you shop local with your local artisans, like maybe not a refrigerator, but local artisans for your furniture, for,
Hmm.
sofas, uh, beds, dining tables. If you shop those local artisans, you can have a piece that you can hand down to your children.
Hmm.
You know, it's a lasting piece versus pressboard stuff that's going to fall apart the second you want to rearrange your front
Right.
room, you know. And that's something that people don't understand. I'm paying, $150 for a desk when I can pay a local artisan $250. And in 10 years, that desk is already paid for
Hmm.
because I can move it all around. Yes, it's heavier, but yes, it's a more sturdy
Hmm.
piece and a more custom piece
You're not
to
getting the
the
junk, just.
junk. Yeah. You have your drink sitting on there, whether it's a coffee cup and you have the heat stain, or you may use a coaster or what have you. But eventually that's going to warp that press board.
Hmm.
But solid wood that's been treated correctly, you don't have that problem.
Yeah.
You can actually sand down the solid wood and, restain it, paint it, whatever. God, I'd hate painting wood, but people do, you know.
Well, I just wanted to throw out that this dynamic pricing is total BS, and we need to say no.
Yeah,
We're not going to do this. I don't know how exactly, because it just seems like the powers that be think they can do whatever they want. But that was
they
one thing I wanted to address real quick. Another thing, um, I don't know if you've seen, have you read the book Chaos by Tom O'Neill and Dan oh
I don't think so.
Hyphenbring?
No. No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
Chaos reveals a lot about CIA involvement with the Manson murders, MK Ultra. It deals in this man spent 20 something years
There's a
writing
book
this book.
there's a book called Laurel Canyon that
Mm-hmm.
details all of this, and it's I guess Chaos and Laurel Canyon both the same
Mm-hmm.
type of books, but yes, there is a
I've read that one too.
distinct against a lot of the serial killers. They
Mm-hmm.
all come out of Laurel Canyon or have a tie to Laurel Canyon and military involvement, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there's a lot of meat and potatoes in
Well,
that.
just and you will probably be interested in this too. Tom O'Neill has been speaking to Luna. What's her name? The beautiful UFO lady that's in, she's part of Congress, I believe. Uh Luna. I've forgotten her first name. She's three names, something, but her last name is Luna. Anyway, she's speaking with Tom O'Neill as we speak, or she was in the last few days, about this book and the truth of the CIA involvement. I mean, from Manson to Jack Ruby
Yeah,
to
Ruby.
Ruby.
Yeah,
And so he's testifying. I don't know if he was subpoenaed, I assume, or else maybe he volunteered. I don't know, but they're actually speaking with him now about the truth of this book, Chaos. I recommend. I listened to it on Audible, and I know most people like to go ahead and read it, but I listened to it, and you'll be blown away. This man
nice.
has done his research. He's done his deep dives, and it's worth listening, and also listening to him speak into I want to say she's a congresswoman. Please don't let me misspeak though, because I'll be. But
It's okay.
he's speaking with Luna, and that can be found on YouTube. So we're finding out that all these conspiracy theories are not exactly theories. Right and left, it's being proven that these are being proven to be facts, not theories. So
100%. 100%. And there a lot of the stuff that we touch base on in, podcasting world. Everybody guys thought we were crazy 5 years ago, but everything that we've talked about, it's true,
yes.
And if you start listening to podcasters, including us, then you find out the information that is there and it's out there, and we are telling you the truth. The mainstream media is the propaganda machine,
Hmm.
and that was Obama that allowed propaganda to be spewed by mainstream media with no accountability.
It
And
needs to
that
be illegal again.
yes, and I'm hoping our current president, though I this term is wow, okay, not what we expected, but it is what it is. It's what we've got right
I
now.
mean,
It's
as
better.
far as I'm concerned, we had the lesser of two evils, and I just chose one evil over another.
Yeah, I agree.
I would like for my president to have a brain. I don't mean to, I mean, I just have to say the facts. I mean, I don't want circular logic. And
I
at
don't
least with President Trump, you don't get circular logic.
know. You just get
There's
good
no
TV.
logic.
You
Yeah.
what makes good TV? I mean, that's what the man knows. But okay, whatever. Beside that, he's got some good policies. He's got some really terrible, terrible policies.
Mm.
But he is just a businessman and he's grimy. I mean, point blank, I knew he's grimy back then. I don't think that he's a PDF, by any
No,
means.
no.
I think that's all been discredited. But I think he's just a grimy businessman that worked in New York. And in order to do any type of architecture in New York, you have to be mob laced. That's facts. Facts. The
Well,
union, it's all mob. So
what
yeah,
I find interesting is how, they'll always bring it up about Trump, President Trump, but totally ignore President Clinton's association.
yes,
It's
yes.
like we can't see that, but we can see President Trump.
That's the part that blows my mind away. It's like, okay, since even Reagan was a great man, but there were some clouds around him. Cuban Missile Crisis, Iran Contra.
Mhm.
There was a lot of swirls around it. We will do episodes on those so that we can prove the point. You know, every person that holds that office is just a temporary employee. They're not
Mhm.
the real leaders.
Right.
That's something everybody has to understand.
Someone above them is pulling the strings,
Correct.
and that kind of
They're just
ties
the
into
puppet.
today's topic as well to a degree. But I just wanted to throw out the book Chaos, Tom O'Neill, O apostrophe Neill, and Dan Piepenbring, Piepenbring. That's an interesting last name, and I
Very
hope I
cool.
didn't butcher it. But yes, since this is current, and Tom O'Neill has been speaking with our government about CIA. I mean, it needs to be absolutely abolished and made illegal. It was never intended. It should be an illegal organization, and they claimed that they were only working in foreign countries, and we know now that that's a lie.
Absolutely. A
It's
lie. I
been a
mean,
lie.
we've got one that's running Virginia right now, even though she's like,
Uh
oh,
huh.
I'm not. No, you never leave the company. Once you're in the company, you never leave the company. You're always
Didn't
being
she go up
handled.
against Winsome Sears, an incredible
Un
woman?
Unbelievable that, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're supposed to be all these, no, y'all, no, I'm not. That's a whole different. When we
She
get into
goes
an
up
episode,
against a brilliant black woman.
but
And when
and
your
Sears
NAACP is rooting for the white woman, I have to question where is your loyalty in
problem
that?
exists when some Sears chokes public speaking. Okay, she does. She's brilliant, but she does choke under public speaking. Now, I've witnessed her speak many a times. I've gone to a lot of her little rallies and stuff like that to support her, but she does choke She
Some people aren't. Look at Ben
that
Carson. He's so mealy. He's so timid. I mean, I think he would have a brilliant mind for
right,
a position, but you've got to, you can't be that soft,
right.
you
And
know.
she's not that soft. She is a former Marine, but she
Oh, I
doesn't have,
didn't know that.
yes, she is a former Marine, but she doesn't have the public speaking skills. She's brilliant behind the desk. She's brilliant in the policies that she's tried to push. But when it comes to public engagement, and I mean, when she's got a crowd in front of her, somebody asks her a question, whether she knows the answer or not, it's the
It's the delivery. They want
yeah,
somebody charismatic, and
and
not everybody is. That's where you
see,
get cult leaders, right?
that's when you have CIA,
Uh,
Spanberger, who has been trained on public speaking, who has been trained to whip up a crowd. You know, that's how she took it.
it's
Whether
all
it was
about cadence and oh,
correct,
yeah.
correct, and it was the public speaking, the refinement of the public speaking. Now, her running mate, uh, John John Reed, was a excellent public speaker, but he couldn't carry it because he was a gay man married to a man. And yeah, that kind of lost a lot of people. And then, of course, when some Sears campaign had to do a smear campaign and find some ex-boyfriend of John's that was willing to, smear him. But John is an impeccable. He worked under, Bush's. He worked in the White House. He worked, in the press pits. He had his own radio show. I listened to his radio show. The man is very well spoken. He knows his facts. He knows his constitution. He believes in them. And beautiful, beautiful man, and very honest, very upfront, and very patriotic. And it's not to the point of, you know, overkill. No, it's he sees it no matter which side of the coin it's on. It could be
Personally, I don't have a problem. I wish we would stop using sexuality in any respect when it comes to office holding. What do you bring to the table as far, what are
that's
your policies? That's all I care about. I don't now if you're sleeping with, you know,
children.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
a line.
th-
I mean,
there
but
is a line.
if you're
I
what
don't
you
care
do
what
in your
people do.
bedroom is
Right. I don't care what
not,
people do in their bedrooms. I don't care what politicians do in the Oval Office. I don't care that Bill Clinton, and Monica Lewinsky. I have zero
yeah.
cares whatsoever.
I do
What
care
I
that he lied, went on camera and
I
absolutely
di-
lied to all of
that is a
America.
problem.
Yeah.
However, I don't care what the man does. That didn't bother me. It's the
And
other
he's married
things,
to Hillary. Of course he's going to have affairs.
those things don't bother me. It's what you do in office, the policies that you hold. That's what makes or breaks a person. But now because, we have, oh, we must identify as something and place people in boxes, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, did you know that they shut CERN down on July the
Yes, that's
29th?
another current. Yes, yes.
They
A
most
lot of
certainly
people are kind
did.
of freaked out about it, and I've heard some things about
Well,
portals opening and such. Have you heard anything like that? A scratch.
I can't attest for portals, but I can attest to what I felt. I was wondering, why in the world am I having mad anxiety? I'm just anxious. I was just like, oh my God, I'm just ready to crawl out of my skin. And it makes sense. CERN was shut down that day. And then, the residuals, it started mellowing out. I thought it was something that I was doing or a memory that was triggering, because this is the time of year that I was pacing a hospital a year ago and didn't leave.
Mm, yeah.
And so I didn't know if that was subconsciously bringing it forward. And then I found out, oh, wait a minute, CERN was shut down on the 29th, and that's when my anxiety started. And now, it's mellowed since. But yeah, those couple of days were really, really rough. They
Well,
also took antimatter, which is in the CERN super
mm-hmm,
collider. Okay. They took it for a test ride in like a little cabinet
mm-hmm.
around the base to see, because what antimatter is if it touches matter, it explodes. So that's really, quite fascinating and scary all in the same. But they took it for a ride around the block, basically. And that's just weird. So now they're doing a longer version where they're going to take it out of the town in their little trap box. They're going to take this antimatter. And I'm like, no, we don't take these things for a walk. This is not a pet. You know, keep that stuff contained. I know CERN shut down for 4 years, but we don't need to be riding around with antimatter.
Well,
I'm
and have
sorry.
you heard anything about they're going to build another CERN somewhere? A bigger?
There's hundreds of super colliders everywhere in the world. CERN is just the largest. And yes, I think they're
Best known.
probably building another one, but what they're doing right now is they're adding components to make it easier to spot. It's not matter, it's not antimatter. The next late they're looking for that dark matter.
Well,
Um,
my husband was telling me that they've discovered 17 dimensions now.
yes. Well, they've had when CERN and one of the times that they brought CERN up to do its thing, it opened supposedly a
Hmm.
portal and something crawled out.
Hmm.
There is only a few articles that you can find that are notable about this whatever thing crawled out and died, whatever it was. It came from another dimension into our dimension, and ew, what are we doing? What are we
Nothing
opening
creepy
up?
about that.
Nothing nefarious about that. Are we trying to kill this world? Now, when you look at the UFOs like the P50 P47s and the P52s, which is what old girl was talking about, Allison before she shot herself, that she didn't shoot herself, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Um, she was talking about these. Now, the P47s are 47,000 years from us, but they are us. We did something to scorch the top side, and man went underground. And they developed over thousands of years into the P47s. Now, the P52s are the same as us, but the undergrounds, because they stem from the 47s, but the 52s don't want this catastrophic event to happen.
So
And
you're
the P
saying we became machines?
we became aliens. The grays that you are seeing, they
Oh,
made
they're
some
so
sort,
ugly.
yeah, but they live underground, which kind of sort of makes sense. And then they found a way to bend time to come back to ensure the 47s came back to ensure that we would do what we do so that they would exist. The 52s said, no, we don't want you. So they're trying to stop the events for the cataclysm so that they don't exist. So it's a war between the two thousands of you of aliens, you know, but they're us from Earth,
Mm, God,
just
so
time
heavy.
travel. It is, it's a loop. And I mean, we can get into that in a whole nother
Where's John
episode.
Teeter when you need to talk to him? Does he know anything about this?
Well, John Teeter did forewarn us, on Coast to Coast Radio. He really
Yep.
did forewarn us about things and to stop doing things, but we don't listen. Of
No.
course, we're
No.
humans. We want to run to the edge of science and jump off the cliff before we know what we have.
Yes.
Hence why we have AI and it's released to the world, and there is no putting that back into Pandora.
No. No.
But
Absolutely not.
that's our current events for today. We're definitely going to
Yes.
do a lot more deep diving into a lot of the topics that we discussed, especially with CERN and the P47s and the P52s. Is a definite good episode to dig into and bite off because it's a lot of interesting information that they go
Mhm.
over with it.
Right. Well, Tataria, I'm a little nervous because I'm going to be in the captain's seat today a little bit, but I know my captain is going to chime in and help me out here because
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
she's so full of, she's got so much knowledge up there, so much. She's secured. But anyway, Tataria, how do I explain it, is a place that may or may not have existed on Earth, a civilization, I should say. The landmass obviously did, and thinking northern, it's Asia, where
Northern Asia.
Mongolia
Yeah.
is, China, that type of,
Up towards Russia. Yeah.
yes. And okay, where do you even begin? I guess you could start with the Piri Reis map. That's Pirireis map. And he was Perry Reese. Perry is his last name. Reese was his title. He's part of the Ottoman Empire, which formed Turkey. We would call Turkey, and he was a navigator and a cartographer. and he created this map, which you can look at. And it's he whether he ever made it to South America or any of these places is question. We don't know for sure. That's what I gather.
But
However,
it's
it's
so
very
accurate.
accurate. He
Yeah.
accurately located South America, North America, and also a little place down at the bottom called Antarctica now. And now, whether he actually went there or not, if this is a theory, and you can correct me, but he thought it was a wasteland full of snakes.
Well, from what I understand, he drew that map from older maps that were kind
Yes.
of that were very, rough to he transcribed them to make the Piri Reis map. And
Hmm.
it had animals on it, it had all kinds of stuff on it, but the original cartographies don't exist anymore because they just kind of disintegrated
Hmm.
after he made his map. But it is so incredibly accurate. I mean, from every little jetty to coastline and
Hmm.
how it was formed, that somebody had to map it
Yes.
because
And
it
it,
just
it, it was 1513, by the way.
yes, yes.
So
And
not
the Mary Reese
discovered till 1829.
1829, right. So yeah, it was actually rediscovered because it wasn't he drew it in the 1500s, but it was more rediscovered in 1829 just hiding, just sitting there on a shelf or something if I recall. And with a lot of other scrolls and a lot of other information, but it was so incredibly accurate and these places hadn't even been documented yet.
Hmm.
And they went by this map and documented it, and it was so incredibly accurate that it's scary that our history tells us that no, nobody came across, nobody did this, this is never a thing you
Yeah.
know and it even dictates an ice wall, if I'm not mistaken, on the Perry Reese map, does it not? Or is that
An
something you're
ice
getting into?
wall.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that's where Antarctica was, but he was of I gather that he was of the because he was an admiral too, and he traveled a lot with his uncle who was a courtier. Is it a
Of course, yeah, of
courtier? A
course, yeah,
courtier?
yeah.
And so he was kind of a pirate. His uncle was anyway. So he did do some sea travel, but as far as making it to Antarctica, I doubt it. So I don't know. He didn't seem to. I saw nothing. I in my research to indicate that he thought it was ice.
Okay. Well, it had animals on it that, and some that we were undescribable.
Hmm. Some
Some that
one
we,
horned
yeah,
animal, not
like a
exactly.
unicorn, but
Yeah.
yeah, like a rhinoceros maybe. And that's probably where the unicorn came from, was the rhinoceros, but they were more like a horse.
Hmm.
So we're not real certain during those times. It's the accuracy of the coastline that I think intrigues most people, and the fact that Antarctica had vegetation shown on it and
Hmm.
animals shown on it, and here we are, we're seeing it as nothing but ice.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's quite strange. But our world changes,
Hmm.
several thousand years, our world changes. Egypt used to be a lush green land, and now it's a desert. You know,
Yeah.
Death Valley was a lush green land, and now it's a desert. So we are slowly turning into, the deserts are becoming lush and green. The lush and green is becoming deserts. It's just the cycle of this earth.
Hmm. Well, they act like climate change just started with
No,
modern men, and the climate has always changed. It's just the nature. We've had ice ages. We've had
yes,
El Niños and La Niñas all along. They just didn't have the title. And
right.
I mean, people studied weather, but they didn't understand things the way we do. But I find it interesting that Tartaria was on most maps predating 1789.
Yes, this was.
Okay. And so then all of a sudden they vanish from the maps from about, I don't know, 17, let's see. Well, between 1785 and 1820 is called the inheritance period. That's where we get in. Okay. I feel like I'm skipping around, so I may need some guidance, but okay. This Tartaria existed. It was a civilization which developed architecture that we see all over the world. Okay. And we know that Pangea, uh, the continents broke apart probably a very, very long time ago, not 400 or 500 years ago, correct? I would think Pangea.
Yes.
That would have taken some time to happen. So when you look at architecture in some in San Francisco, your capitol buildings all over even the United States, and then in France, bridges, also stone bridges in particular, that still exist. The architecture is very similar, and some of these things are quite old. Maybe not all the US stuff, but how we didn't have internet then. We didn't have Encyclopedia Britannica then or any of that. How did architecture match so well across continents in a time period such as that?
I think I mean, people migrated. Excuse me. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
they might have. Yeah, that's
And
strong.
our history is much older than we actually give it credit for. And
Hmm.
I think something happened in the early 1800s between 1805 and 1815.
Hmm.
Because I think that's when Tartaria started not existing anymore.
Hmm.
And the reason I think that is because there's a diary, uh, you sent me the link. There's a
Hmm.
diary that
Old
shows
Sky.
something happened in about 1815 and things changed. So was there another cover up? Because we know how our rulers like to destroy history, and history is, the lie agreed upon by the victors, so to speak. Um, was Tartaria a bigger portion of our world as we know it? Because they were the Masons. It's the phenomenal architecture that they built is beyond words, beyond measure.
It's
Um,
it. The buildings are, and I guess you can find some photographs of some of these buildings in the process, but as far as the dome making, a lot of that is not shown. And just the manpower it would have taken to haul in the stones, to haul in the wood, to make it so symmetrically perfect, would in the time frame. We'll talk about the World's Fair. Let's just go ahead and do it was the
well,
Chicago World's Fair. They built it, and supposedly in 2 years, only 2 years, elaborate, beautiful architecture just for that fair to come to Chicago for a certain year. And it's supposedly in 2 years, all these things went up and were promptly taken down after that fair.
well,
Why?
with uh with the actual maps, it was Abraham Ortelius, I think, in 1570 that his map was one of the first, not necessarily just the Piri Reis map, where Piri Reis copied that particular map, but it showed that Tartaria was pretty much China,
Mhm.
for the most part. But the technology advancement, and I guess the historical context is going that a mud flood. Now we've
Mhm.
had several deluges that happened just in, smaller locations, not global. There was only been one, and that was the Younger Dryas. But we've had smaller mud floods that's covered civilizations for eons, and
Well, I wanted
things.
to talk to you about that mud flood thing because to me, the fact that it would happen, because they talked about San Francisco, I keep bringing that up. Now, of course, we know it's on a fault line, but
Correct.
a lot of buildings there in other places in Europe are now below ground level. where there were
That's
doors, where there were windows, and they're below
windows.
ground level. Now, you
Yeah.
could attribute that to earthquakes lower in the building, but some of these buildings, specifically in European areas, appear that they would have had to have dug out a huge portion and built and then covered it back up
Well, like,
to
okay, we're gonna say for California, for instance. I've driven the coast multiple times in California. I've been stationed in San Diego, San Francisco, things like that, doing work on military vessels. And on my time off, I love to drive. And I go through these back, hey, truck, take me somewhere. And the truck just takes me somewhere. I don't know where I'm going. I just go just to see for the adventure. And it never fails. Trust, I always have an adventure. But speaking of like mud floods, it's moderate raining. There's not a whole lot of rain in the Southern California area. So when you go into the rockier areas of the mountainous terrain in the lower areas where the fault, San Andreas Fault runs through, you still have the mountain ranges because of things like we're taking all the wood off the mountain. That wood, those roots hold the mountain in place. And if you have a road that's running
mm,
through it, you've got nothing stopping that mud and rock. And I've seen many of mudslides. I've been stopped. They knew it was coming. They knew it was going to happen, or they triggered it on purpose because it was imminent. They don't want people to get hurt. Now, this is in 2000s, when I witnessed stuff like this. And I really wish I'd quit zooming across the screen, man. It's
ah,
just really annoying me. I
it's
have
like you
no.
you were said you were going on an adventure, so here we go. But I find it fascinating that these mud floods happened in different geographic locations, but that can be attributed to a lot of
Deforestation.
rain and
Yep.
deforestation, like you
Where do
said.
you
But
think building materials? Now, one thing that I will say, the early 1700s when we were colonizing here, okay, in the United States, the one crop that was required for everyone to grow was what? Hemp.
corn,
Hemp.
oh, hemp, okay,
And they would
yeah.
make hempcrete, okay? And the hempcrete is the strongest building material. It's earthquake proof, it's fireproof, it's, bug proof. It's a great building material. Every person was required to to grow hemp, and they would use the fibers in the hemp to make the hempcrete, which is
Hmm.
building blocks. And that's why a lot of the structures, I mean, overseas now, they're still doing it. But in the United States, because of three people, the Rockefellers, of course, are in that. And then you've got, your oil tycoons that demand, oh, no, we're going to use oil byproduct, and then you've got the people that had stock in the pulp and the industry for wood, they're like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to use wood. But hemp is actually a better grow material. But those three people were the ones that stopped hemp being grown in the United States and classified it as a drug,
Well,
even
they
though
were
there's no,
making money on cotton,
they were making
so.
money on wood, oil, and JP and the Rockefellers were backing them, holding them to the line because that would have flipped something that is normally free to grow,
Hmm.
people being able to build themselves. It would take away money from them. So they stopped it. They stomped it out in the early 1900s, and it's been that way ever since. Now, I believe Trump in 2018 overturned that so that we can now start growing hemp again and using hempcrete as a architectural. It's when I tell you it is a magnificent, it is stronger, better, everything environmentally. The carbon,
Hmm.
it is a net zero carbon uh for anything for
We
building.
can't have net zero carbon because we've got to blame people for global warming and climate change.
Well, even the hempcrete, you wouldn't need as much air conditioning because it holds its temperature. It
Then we
cools in the
wouldn't
sun.
have to be paying bills.
That's correct. So they had to stop it, and now that's been reversed. But we're still stuck in this mindset of, oh no, we can't. And it's going to
Well,
take people like you and I discussing stuff like this until it catches on and people change that, hey, this is actually what needs to happen. Y'all want to save the environment? Then grow hemp. And I'm not talking about marijuana. I'm talking about marijuana, which has no THC value, but the plant fiber itself is
Mm.
used three ways. It can be
The
used as
strongest rope.
the strongest rope. The fibers can be used in, making hempcrete. The fibers can be used, the stalk can be used in making an oil base to burn.
I've had hemp lotions. Fantastic.
You know, those things are wonderful, 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 wonderful. And the quicker that we start realizing that hemp is our future, and this is thousands of years, you're thousands and thousands. I mean, India, the caves that flood every year were all built inside those caves. They were all lined with hemp, with the hempcrete. And the none of the drawings, none of the architecture has shown any molds, anything over thousands, 14, hundreds of years, 1400 years since they were built. And it's like, why are we not using this material? Because they want to trap us in a disposable society.
Mm. I
That's
wanted
why.
to get into this because as I was doing research about Tartaria, which is a lot of there's a lot of confusing information about
Mhm.
it to me. But I came across this old sky.
Okay.
And okay, I don't know, and you guys can look it up because it's out there. May 19th, 1780. It's called the Dark Day. People were working the fields. They were probably, I don't know if they were in school. They didn't do much schooling in those days, but they were out doing their things. And the sky became dark. It wasn't exactly instantaneous, but at the same time it was like a brush was painting the sky. And it became, that purple hue, the violet
Right.
color that happens, and all of a sudden it was dark. I'm talking so dark they couldn't see the stars. They couldn't see their hand in front of them. Dark. Because of course, think about those days they didn't have light like we have. They might have had some gas lights and stuff like
Right.
that, but when it was dark, it was dark. You lit candles, or I believe they used gas lanterns at that time, or some kind of fuel, probably kerosene, rather, I guess. But anyway, it just became completely dark, and I think it stayed dark for 3 days, right? And when it got light again and then dark, two two things for sure happened. Apparently, before that those 3 days and before the May 19th, 1780, the stars appeared much closer, much closer, and they were further away in the sky. And people were freaking out. I mean, they're like, what happened to the stars? Why is it they seemed so much closer and now they look completely distant? That was one thing that happened. And another thing, prior to that day, the earth had a vibration, a hum. And I'm not talking about a hum like the annoying, like the Taos hum or something like that, but it had a vibration. It was, you could almost feel it breathing and living. And there was some kind of energy vibe that they were vibing on prior to that that disappeared after those 3 days. One
Interesting.
lady had noted in her journal that she wept every night because the sun went down and it had gotten, the quietness, it was too quiet because that hum was gone. That vibration felt like it was gone. It felt like something had died. So something changed. And the children who were alive during that time were told, do not talk about this. They couldn't explain it. And we still probably can't explain it. So they were told, do not talk about it, but it was notated in, they journaled about it. A specific man, and I can't remember his name, but he had journal. He was into astronomy and journaled the stars in the sky and everything, and even things that might not have been named at the time. He threw away all of that because they were told they would seem mad for.
Is this why we have the large insane asylums that were built in the early 1800s?
I mean, people were remembering these things. They were remembering the old sky. And they found a woman who was checking into it, found journal after journal of these people talking about the old sky. So something changed.
What is your
And
what is your theory that what changed? Did we like move into a different constellation? Did our solar system like hiccup? Did we cross a timeline? Or what do you think happened?
something happened in the firmament, I think, but I don't know. I don't know what that would be other than an act of God. You know, I mean, in my mind, we didn't have HARP then, so we know it wasn't HARP doing some jacked up crap. We didn't have CERN,
Right.
so anything big would have had to have been some of that nature. Would have had to have been something of, because I don't even think the old families, the rich families that are. Oh gosh, okay.
Did you just go
Sorry.
blind?
Yeah, well, no, I got a phone call and it appeared on my device that I'm using for my show or our show. Sorry, I didn't mean to make it mine, but anyway, an act of God or an act of powers and principalities, possibly
Interesting.
powers.
Now,
I mean,
there's this is ancient. This is like pre 17, 1700s, our current history, which I would say 1700s is in our current framework of history for this country. There is myths and legends that show a time before the moon
mhm.
arrived. And Zulu have the same thing that they have stories of the time before the moon and when the moon arrived. So do you think it's something to that maybe our alien overlords or whatever you want to call them uh did something in the late 18 or late 17 1800s that moved us physically? Kind of like
Possibly.
the Anunnaki, most of it, I would say 16 different tribes detail, and these are spread across the world, detail the time before the moon when the Anunnaki, and they call them, each tribe called them something else, but the Anunnaki left the world and the world, erupted. And then the moon came, which
Mhm.
stabilized our oceans, which stabilized our land masses and things like that. So they're saying that the satellite moon, which was an alien thing, they captured it, brought it back to stabilize the planet because it was going to be destroyed until the moon arrived.
And
But
that could be the case. I mean these things. I feel like because this is we've had revisionist history and we've been lied to.
oh yeah,
Just we don't know, so much so that I don't know what to discern at times. I pray for
it's
discernment, but
it's all we can do is go by the evidence that we have and the speculation of what is real and what's not.
I feel
And
like they're trying to do that again, Dawn's
I think
Rays.
so
I
too.
feel like they're trying
Yeah,
to, when our generation and probably the millennials have died off, okay, what are they going to be? They're going to be lying to the future generations. They already are
right.
about certain histories and stuff. I mean, they don't even teach them cursive anymore. They won't be able to read the Constitution. They could, in the future, say that doesn't even exist. That never existed. You never had a Constitution.
That's
There, I mean, all of, I just think that's what they're trying to do. They're waiting. We got the greatest generation has pretty much died off. The boomers are next, and then we're next. What you
this
got?
right here is the U.S. Constitution and American writings. This has also got
Mhm.
the papers in it, and the Constitution, and it is a physical book. This is the only way history survives because digitizing this, they can change it anytime they want.
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
physical paper and writing. And I hate to say this, but why do you think they use clay tablets? Because paper doesn't last forever. Our our ancient history was on clay tablets. And we say, oh, well, that's so remedial. No, that's actually advanced and ingenious. Because do we see paper scrolls, papyrus? Very few, very, very, very few. What survived that we see and can calculate on history? Clay
Yeah, clay
tablets.
tablets. That makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense. But
Wow.
yeah, I recommend everybody do not buy books, buy history.
Especially old books.
Yeah, stuff that's, I have a whole library that I keep. I have a whole United States history section, and it's now for my grandson. I was hoping one day I would
Hmm.
have a grandchild, and
And you
I was
do
so
have a
fortunate.
cute one.
Yeah, I was so fortunate when my daughter came home pregnant and Sebastian was born. And now I have a way to give him a library,
Hmm.
actual library versus here's a digital playlist,
Hmm.
and granted that's the fate of the future, but if you can, the physicality of books is more priceless than money, in my opinion,
And
because that
especially old ones that can't be, they can't go back and
reprints.
revise them
Yeah,
because you second, well, third and fourth edition of anything, and especially with Bibles, as a
exactly. Exactly.
they're revising the Bible,
There
and that is specifically a no-no,
That's
you
called a
know.
living Bible for a reason. It is
Mhm.
called a living Bible for a reason, and that is as it adapts to the times and the places, and that's how it has to be because as we're technology more savvy, you know, we need to adapt our livelihoods. Now the basics are still the same.
Mhm.
The stories are still the same. The allegories are still the same, but we need to apply them to our life. So, in order to make it more plain English in terms that we're using today, yes, that is the living document itself.
Well, and I can understand because even in school, because I went to a private Christian school, we use the NIV
Okay,
over the King James because it was in plain English, and I get that. You
right.
just can't change the context of the message. Whatever you're using, the context needs to stay the same, but you can put it in understandable terms. You don't have to go thee, thouest, and all that lispy
That's where
type
pe
stuff.
that's where it drops people. That's why people don't read it. It's
Yeah.
because it's so hard to read. We don't speak like that anymore.
I use
And
the King James, but I also look up words that I don't understand. And,
but we're Gen
what does that
X.
mean? Yeah,
We're Gen
they're not going to
X.
take the time to do that.
Millennial forward are not going to take the time to do that. They want it spoon fed to them in an easier message. And I
Mm,
totally get it. I totally get it. But
yeah.
you still, once you've received that message, maybe you should go back to the original document and compare and contrast if you're interested in that type of theology to make sure that the messages are the same from document to document. And
Well,
that's,
and, that's the thing about Gen X. We're so in and out of technology because look at what I have. I take notes.
yeah.
I
And I still
still,
take,
there's something that converts from watching a video and I'm taking it and I'm writing down notes. And they might just be a word, half of a sentence. It's
right.
not detailed notes, word verbatim of what is in a video, but it's just enough for me to trigger and get that into my head. I think that's why people can't remember things very well sometimes. They're not putting it to memory. There's something about writing it down. But this old sky, when I was doing research on Tartaria, I found more fascinating than Tartaria and the idea of it because we don't know 100%. I mean, there's some people that I watched that just debunked, were spent 3 hours debunking it. but whatever, that's their opinion. I'm not here to prove it. I can't prove it. I can't debunk it either. But the old sky, that just really grabbed me because of the fact that we're seeing so much going on with the sky, because of the fact that you hear people say something is different. I have watched video after video of people saying they feel off, something's changed. Okay? And I'm looking at history saying that this is not the first time this has happened, that
No,
people suddenly feel like something changed. And a lot of us in our generation now are saying it was 2012. 2012, something changed. I could say around that time I started having these weird feelings. I went from kind of digging into these things to fully awake, not woke,
right. Yeah.
awake,
Oh, wait.
different
The
thing.
big difference.
Yeah, so yeah, I think maybe
Well,
some sort of apocalypse happened then, and not in the apocalypse. You know what I mean? Apocalypse just means an awakening, is what it means, and knowledge coming through. And I think that it just started coming in droves.
during that same time, though, in the 1800s, uh, 1815 is when everything kind of fully shifted to whatever it is we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that because of the diaries and the papers
Mm-hmm.
that have been, discovered since. And then you have like in 1854 became the orphan trains, or
Oh, yes.
better known as the Cabbage Patch trains, where
Sad.
children, orphans, hundreds, thousands, and it operated for 75 years. These trains were running, every track, and they were taking children. Now, where did these children come from? Tarteria? Where's their parents? Oh, they're in the psych ward because they remembered Tartaria. And I fully believe that. They remembered what Tartaria was, the easier life, the whatever Tartaria actually was that made life easier for them. And maybe that went away. Maybe it mud flooded it over. I don't know. I do know that whatever it was completed in 1815. And in then 1859, the orphan train started running. Where are the parents? How did we get so much? Because we weren't at war with anybody in the
And it
1850s.
showed chill. I mean, you would not believe the number of children on these trains being
Thousands.
mailed. They had postage on the children as they were going, and they were largely, I mean, I guess some of them were taken in and loved, but they were slaves,
They were slaves.
essentially indentured servants.
Over 200,000 were documented between those 75 years. 200,000 children.
Yeah, and
And
I
they
would
would,
like to say they were Caucasian children.
yes. And
So,
some didn't even speak. They never spoke, which really creeped some of the people that got them, because like the males especially would be, farmers would come up and they would bid on them, so to speak. I'll take this one,
yep,
you know, because he has all his
just like the
teeth and he
slave
looks
trade.
strong. Yeah, just like the slave trains. And they were slaving children to the fields,
Worked
to,
farms.
to farms, and they were
And
feeding
God
them
only
scraps.
knows what else.
Yeah. If the elites got a hold of them, we know where they went to, because that never stops. That I think that since the beginning of time, the sacrifice aspect of humanity exists. It still exists. It has existed, and it will continue to exist as long as someone believes in these creatures, demons,
Yeah.
gods, demigods, whoever they're worshiping, and believing that children's blood, and specifically adrenochrome that is in blood, specifically a fear, like Monsters Inc.
Hmm.
We all saw that movie. They told you what they were doing right there in front of you, and we all thought, oh, cute kids movie, yay! But it was actually happening. And that's the scary, creepy aspect of life now, is Hollywood tells you exactly what they do in the movies, and then we discover it's real. And people are like, oh, no, it's not. Have you not read a single file that has been dropped by the United States government? A single one. Because the first drop told you all about the Monsters Inc. scenario of adrenochrome and barbarically inciting fear for this particular aspect in the blood that revitalized them. And Monsters Inc., what are they doing? Screams, capturing screams to power their cities. Kind of weird, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But then you go on further and you'll say, okay, well, now what is this jerky we're talking about? Or what is this, uh, vegetable cream cheese? What? Why is that so prevalent? Why is those words? Make sure we have vegetable cream cheese. I want this specific recipe of this jerky. And it's code words. And if you watch Monsters Inc., they have code words and they tell you these things. And it's like, my God. And if you don't know it by now, you're never going to know it. And listening to you and I banter back and forth about it, we'll continue to banter back and forth about it. But if you don't see it now, you never will. You just don't care. You don't care
Well,
enough to fully understand that all you have to do is open one file that the government has given us full access to, and you will know.
yeah. The 1785 to 1820 was called like our inheritance period, where we don't have recording of all these buildings being built as we talked about earlier.
Right.
And then from 1820 to 1900 was the historical revision. All the maps with Tartaria destroyed, except for this Piri Reis that we can see, which, was based on other maps. And that's when school was pushed heavily. The
R-
history that they told in
Rockefeller
school
School. Yep.
was what is going to be, and that's what we're dealing with to this day. And people wonder why we're trying to break down the Department of Education because it's been teaching bullshit. Sorry for my French. I know you don't like for us because
I
BS
I think we're
all
going to
these
do an
years.
episode next week on education, and you'll see a string that I pulled, and it unraveled greatly into a third party from the 20s that still has influence on how education is formed and
Frankfurt
pushed.
School.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
This is much darker. I'm not going to get too much into it because I
okay.
don't want to be. It could quite get us banned. But it is open, and yeah, I pulled that string a while ago. I would say probably several years ago, and then oof, it's pretty in detailed, and then it also spills over into music.
Hmm.
So we're gonna go hit that line, and then of course you'll see where it's going from there as we go on, because that is a string that I think really needs to be pulled and it needs to be exposed. There are some that are talking about it, but when I pulled the documentation for it straight off the website, straight out of the government files, it's just like, are you kidding me? Seriously? And I come with receipts. So, yep, we're going to pull that one,
Wow.
I think, next week. And
Well,
that's
I
going to be a
hope
really
I
good
did
one.
okay with my research. I've been feeling odd. I don't know how else to say it. I've had this odd feeling ever since watching all these things and just realizing that the powers that be, the Anunnaki, the demons, demonic forces, powers and principalities, whatever they is, are, has revised our history going back well over 100 years,
Yes,
and they're trying to do it again. And when
absolutely.
we're dead and gone, it will be revised. And I hope and pray that some of what we leave behind will
We
surface and
we have to
help.
leave. we have to leave behind the evidence, whether we leave like on our own properties time capsules, to be opened, whatever, leave time capsules with books in it and waterproof containers, that's the best way to preserve history is to leave time capsules.
Of course, you got
And
to be able to read it if we write anything. So learn cursive,
Rosetta Stone, yeah.
learn how to write, because you
Now
don't want to be
you sent me
deciphering
you sent me
something.
a video. Did you want to watch that video?
Which one?
The
The
three
old
minute and
sky?
third, yeah, no, that's the 16-minute one. The 3 minute and 33 second one.
Sure.
Let's see if I can pull it up here. Oh, and I need to share my screen. Let's pull it up right. Is this one it? That's 21-minute one. Pull up this one. That's the 16 minutes.
Put back on my eyes so I
One
can
second
see.
here. There it is. The Tarteria's final hours, I think. No, that's it. That is it, isn't it? Go back one more. Figures I have to find it again.
Oh, that's okay. We've got time. I'll talk while you're doing that. Just saying a little bit about please take some time to do some research and some reading. I can't stress enough how im- important it is to get some information. And it doesn't hurt to learn some stuff. Get beyond yourself and just mindless entertainment occasionally. And I need mindless
Yes.
entertainment and I engage in it all the time. But sometimes a deep dive into a rabbit hole will take you places that TV and
It most
whatnot can't
definitely
take you.
will. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yes,
Get over here. Share sound. Do
oh
that.
yeah, while you're getting that set up, I just want to say happy birthday, America.
Oh, yes. Happy
Woohoo!
birthday, America. Right.
America, F yeah. Did you
You,
see? Have you seen it?
yeah,
Okay.
you can see this.
Yes.
Right, here we go. Now, what we're seeing, guys, is basically structure, and it's all in black and white, amazing structures. And I would venture to guess that these are the ones that were built in the Tartarian days and then possibly destroyed.
That looks like Notre Dame,
It does. It is.
St. Petersburg, possibly
I
there.
wasn't looking for Tartaria when I found the dark day of 1780, May 19th to be exact, when the sky went black across New England and parts of eastern Canada. Not dark, not cloudy, black. Midday turned to midnight. People lit candles at noon. Livestock returned to their barns thinking night had fallen. The darkness was so complete, so absolute, that the Connecticut legislature adjourned because members literally could not see each other across the room. The official explanation? Forest fires, smoke from distant burning woods carried by unusual atmospheric conditions. Simple, neat, contained.
I forgot to
For most
mention that.
people, that's where the story ends. But the deeper I went into contemporary accounts, the more that explanation began to crack. Because this wasn't just New England. Reports of unusual atmospheric phenomena, darkened skies, blood-red moons, ash falling from clear air, appeared across multiple continents in the late 18th century. 1780, 1783, 1784, all within a handful of years, and all, curiously, coinciding with something else. The disappearance of Tartaria from maps.
Yeah, during those years, there was a lot of fires that were spreading across, and it was mostly two cities were burning. You would almost, and it would totally erase the city, level it, and unexplained. Everybody, the official narrative was lightning struck the wooden structures and set them on fire, and they couldn't control it. Now, all the cities, all these types of cities had fire departments, remedial, yes, horse and buggy, yes, but it was just odd how it all happened, and that's, I believe, what this final hours is actually trying to explain. It was just not quite as it seemed that it was just a fire.
Let me be clear about what we're told happened. Forest fires, common enough in pre-industrial North America, generated enough smoke to darken the sky across hundreds of miles. The smoke lingered for most of a day, then dispersed. A natural phenomenon, unusual perhaps, but explicable. Except, the darkness wasn't gradual. Witnesses describe it arriving like a curtain being drawn. Timothy Dwight, future president of Yale, wrote that the darkness was as uncommon in its appearance as in its depth. Not smoke settling, not clouds gathering, a sudden advancing wall of blackness. And here's the strangest part. The darkness had a red-tinged quality at its edges. Multiple accounts describe a copper or brass-coloured hue to the air where the blackness met remaining light. The moon, when it rose that night, appeared blood red through the haze. Forest fire smoke doesn't behave this way. I know because I've stood beneath smoke from wildfires. I've watched the sky turn orange, turn brown, watched ash fall like snow. But this is something different. The accounts describe not just darkness, but a quality of darkness that seems to defy simple atmospheric explanation. Samuel Williams, a Harvard professor who documented the event, noted that the darkness extended far beyond any reasonable estimate of where forest fires were burning. He calculated the affected area at over 150,000 square miles. That's not a fire, that's a regional catastrophe. So why forest fires? Why that explanation specifically? And why, when I started pulling on this thread, did I find that 1780 sits at the center of a constellation of other impossibilities? Here's where the pattern starts to emerge. 1776. American independence declared. A new nation, a new narrative, a new beginning. Fresh maps needed, fresh history required.
Wow.
1780.
See,
Yeah.
what he just explained, I think it's the nail on the head. They're doing it now,
Hmm.
with HARP and Los Angeles, Hawaii.
And I got
And
the color wrong. I said violet.
that's okay.
I meant,
That's okay. Yeah, yeah, that's perfectly fine. It was more copper, but that these who is doing this, and especially, did they just hand set these fires? Or is there something more going on that we're just
I don't think there ever was a fire. I think something was done at the firmament level to enact this change. And I do believe that something of that magnitude will happen again. It may be different, it may look different,
well, the
but
firmament, from how I understand it, is like our magnetic field. Okay, it's like a donut, or what they call a toroid. And Earth is here. Okay, see the nice
mhm,
little ball, and then the magnetic field, which is the firmament, goes in, and it loops in like a donut and
mhm,
comes around like this. So that's the toroidal effect, which protects us from radiation,
mhm.
protects us from coronal mass ejection from the sun, those type of things. But so if something happened at that level where our magnetic field or firmament was stripped away, is that what you're kind of saying? That
No, I
maybe
mean,
we,
I think that they did something, they, again, in quotations, to the firmament itself. I mean, I think that's probably, in the antediluvian period, they did not have rain as we know it today.
okay,
Water came up from the firmament because I believe just in my opinion, I could be completely wrong, that the firmament is from down in the earth all the way like a dome over not just the earth, a dome over our our heavens, so to
okay,
speak. And so we hadn't flooded in the antediluvian period yet, and I think rain came up or water came up, and that's how anything was lush and green and grew after the flood. Then we started to have rain, which is just simply displacement of water from one place to another. The earth has
Correct.
never had more or less water than these floods
Yeah,
allowed.
true statement because it evaporates, goes to the clouds, clouds drop it. It's the vicious cycle.
It's just displaced in
Right.
or so I don't know, Dawn's Rays. I don't obviously have the answers. I could be way off. And people, we haven't gotten very many comments. Some people are listening to us.
Right.
You're more than welcome to comment, and we would love to have
We
your
would,
opinion.
yes, we love comments, whether you like us, whether you hate us, whether the topic that we're talking about is totally against your beliefs and you want to, you know, battle us somehow. Please drop your
But I just
comments.
ask to be respectful. I mean, we're not trying to
Exactly.
be jerks
No,
or
no,
to say that
absolutely
we
not.
have the answers. This
No, no, no,
is
no.
for banter and for a sharing of ideas.
Yeah, I have totally different views from Majestic. She has totally different views from me. The people who do comment have totally views. Some agree with us, some disagree with us. If you guys, talk to us. We want to hear what you think. We want to know what your beliefs are. If you have a thought for a new episode, then please, by all means, send us that and we will deep dive into it. We
Yeah.
love to talk and banter with our listeners, and everything is respectful. Everybody's viewpoints are respected, and we are not gods. We are not a cult. We are not any of that. Y'all just, we're here to deliver what information we found. If you find some more, let us know. We'll
Yeah.
most definitely, it could change our opinions on whatever's going on.
We're
So
coming
yes,
upon an hour and a half, so we've been going quite a bit. Do you feel like we've covered what we wanted to talk about with Tataria?
I think so. I think we don't really know what happened to Tartaria. We don't know why the deluge happened to where the buildings are, burnt to the ground and built over top of them. And
Doesn't
when
that
we
sound like Alexandria Library? They were
Yeah,
hiding something then too.
yeah, and it burnt to the ground and,
Hmm.
everything inside. Library of Alexander was a great loss of information, and I don't think everything was a loss. I think they did take some stuff and hid it away, and that would
Probably
be,
it's in the Vatican.
oh, definitely. The Vatican's the next to fall. I hate to say it, but somebody somewhere, some group is going to attack them, and it's not going to be pretty when they do.
Probably take an educated guess, but I'll
I'm
leave it
not.
at that.
We're just going to leave it at that because it's going to happen. It always happens. Something's going to happen there, and it'll be the world. Whether or not we come together as a people for protection of the Vatican, I don't think that's going to be the case. Um, because I don't think the newer generation of people actually care anymore.
Yeah.
They're selfish and they want what's right for them only. They don't care
We're
about
living in a
people.
narcissistic society. They don't
Yeah,
know anything. It's so weird because when I was growing up, I listened to my, 80s pop music at the time and everything, but I also knew what my parents grew up listening to, and I liked it too. It's like they don't tend to care about anything that happened before they existed. And I'm
before their
not saying
existence.
all because there are some wonderful young people out there who are brilliant and have impressed me. Not that you need to impress me, but I've
Right.
been like, wow, I'm so glad you're here. The future needs you.
But see, that's part of
So,
the education that I'm going to get into. Probably, I think it's going to be next week's episode, and it's going to be a multifaceted episode at that. But for now, I think we have covered Tartaria,
yes.
and it's going to next week's episode on education is going to blow some people's minds, and that's all we got for today. So you guys stay curious, think for yourself, question authority. Peace.
America.
Margaret. Oops. Get that? I can't do that. Sure. There we go.